and we're just, taking it slow.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you? Are you okay in Sydney?
It's been horrible here.
Um,
I don't think we will be out of it by the end of the month, as they say.
yeah, that's what I hear.
Yep, it's going to be a bit longer.
Wow.
But they stopped it up. Our
Yeah.
brain stopped it up.
Well,
Well, I mean,
we've had five experience of this, so
Yes,
it's become the norm for us.
it is. But I think Victoria, South Australia, or other states, they do it much better, quicker, right? And they don't muck around.
Yeah, that's right.
But India waited for 3 weeks before she did something. And even then, we keep tightening it up after 4 weeks. It's just not on. She should have done it brutal first time, and that's it.
but
Yeah,
no,
but there's so many interests that pull you from here and there that it's kind of difficult to adhere to one side. There's the business interest, there's the social, there's
Yeah,
so much
but,
politics.
but look, we are losing more.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
correct. Well, I'm
but I
glad
mean,
our premier's really got it together.
I'll migrate to Victoria.
Yeah, come on down. We'll have you here.
but I mean, telling Abe to put his headphones on because his volume does go down. I don't know. You do understand him,
I'll put it on.
but he doesn't listen to me. But Donald, this is your show, so your mic has to work. That's all that's required.
It's working.
But Donald, we are going back to Vegas. I think Vegas is where we were.
Okay.
I think we'll have to go there.
Okay. So what would you like to know about Vegas, Vikram?
Well, obviously growing up there, because I think we were a little short of time that time, so we didn't get too much. Of course, there were some nice people you met in Vegas. That was that you spoke about a lot of those people. But
yeah, Vegas, it's not what you living there is not what you see. There is a huge community of from different socioeconomic statuses. There's another side of Vegas that those that are visiting the Strip and downtown don't often get to see. And for me, I studied there. Some of my elementary school and high school years were in Vegas, so a huge part of my life was shaped during those years in Vegas. And the people that I met along the way certainly added to that fabric of my tissue to push me forward and achieve some of the things I've achieved so far in life.
I think you'll have to take us a little more on the social dynamics of Vegas, and that'd be interesting to know, because the Vegas that everyone, like you said, talks about the Strip and that's it. And beyond that, there's so many people involved in putting it all up. What is their life like behind the scenes? I think that'd be very interesting.
Well, I mean, look, it's just like a huge manufacturing industry where you have, but it's a service industry in Las Vegas where you depend on your hotel mates and your chauffeurs and your bellhops and your casino operators and table operators and technicians. So we clock in at 9 and get off at 5, just like anyone else. But instead of leaving the factory or the plant, we're leaving the casino for those that work in the casino. But that's just one small element of the Nevada economy. Of course, casinos and slot machines and gambling is the bread and butter of Las Vegas. You have tech companies and movie producers. So many movies are filmed there. You have your gas stations and your hospitals and everything that any other city of Melbourne or Sydney or anywhere in the world would have outside of the Strip. The Strip just so happens to be our Disneyland. And you can't classify California or Florida by looking only at Disneyland in Anaheim and Disney World in Orlando. There's more to it. There's a workforce from every segment of the economy and society that does professional work. There are lawyers and judges and doctors and politicians. I mean, it's no different than anywhere else. Vegas just happens to be the Sin City. And it's there's always a saying about Vegas: what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And that seems to be true with their news. And you can't get much out of Las Vegas. You don't know. There's a high crime rate, but you wouldn't know it because it will destroy the tourism industry. So a lot of that stuff is censored. So what I experienced in Vegas at the time when I was growing up in a single parent household and in the shadows of Nevada, or shadows of the glitz and glamour of the Las Vegas Strip, was a lot of experiencing a lot of crime and murders and gang activity. Others would have a different experience. Those from a different socioeconomic status would have a different experience of that, of my experience. But I just happened to break into that education side of life and follow my peers to achieve everything that every parent would want for their children. Not every child has that determination and perseverance to pursue those things. So I worked in the casino for a good part of my teenage years, both at the Excalibur Hotel and Casino and the Treasure Island Hotel and Casino, in the midway. So at that age, you could work in the midway, and the midway is the game room. So a lot of the folks that are gambling will drop off their kids in the game room with maybe $1,000 in their pocket so that they can win prizes and stuffed animals all day. But for the most part, it was what I did. And I met so many different celebrities and Sinbad and Raven Simone and Ricky Lake and several others that was just part of everyday life. In Vegas, you would run into Chevy Chase and some of those actors and actresses just having a good time. It's Vegas. Everyone attends. Everyone visits Vegas if they have the opportunity to visit Vegas.
And there'll be different people there if they're having fun. So there must be fun people to be with at that time. They must have left their whole thing, whether you're an actor, whatever, back at home. Is it like that?
Yeah, so they get in their jet or they drive up from LA or fly in from some part of the world and they have a holiday. Vegas is the holiday destination for adults. It's the adult paradise. And you go and have a good time. You see a lot of bachelors that are getting ready to get married and they have their bachelor's parties and so on, hens nights, buck nights, whatever they call them. People have that last hoorah before they jump the broom, so to speak.
But the only thing, look, Donald, you have to tell us. But the only thing, look, Donald, you have to tell us. You have to have committed. We want to know all about that.
Well, that's from my mouth to God's ears, and I think I'll leave it there.
You can't do that to us. We need that. We need something on the show.
I'm a lawyer. I can't tell you all of my inequities.
Then what are we doing in this show? We need some what we call masala in India.
I mean, we would there was oftentimes that every year there's something called Senior Ditch Day, and all of the high school seniors will choose a day to ditch school. And we'll ditch school and go ride the roller coaster at the New York, or go to the MGM and see what they have to offer. Or we'll go to a house party on that day. But for the most part, it's just the seniors' day to be a little bit naughty and ditch school. And you see hundreds, thousands of high school seniors running around the strip, getting confused with the tourists. So it's we had good times, as teenagers living in Vegas. You within some element of control, we enjoyed our teenage years. It was a fun time. Many nights, weekends. If you grow up in Vegas, there's a level of maturity that you have to obtain because it's not a city that you want to get caught in like a lamb. You have to establish a sense of awareness about yourself, or you can get swallowed up very easily. And I think that's just part of our school culture and what we were taught, and how to identify some of the negative elements in society.
But let me tell you, the format of this show, In Conversation with the Beautiful Mind, actually was not supposed to get into your life that much. But I also wanted you an evolution of a mediator, because your life is so interesting. So I'm trying to create a mix of the two, because look, I mean, let's just say you're too young to be an evolution of a mediator. I don't want you to get too much into your life. Also, like you said, you don't want to tell us a lot of things. In the next 30 years, you will want to tell us all that. So we'll wait for that. So I know I can't get too much out of that, but we're just trying to, trying to do a mix there. Because your story is so interesting. I really want to know everything. But even if I ask certain questions, but I'm used to asking those questions in Evolution of a Mediator. So if you don't want to answer, please don't answer. I mean, these are, but just because I'm trying to create that image of your growing up in Vegas and what was life like, the kind of social structure, the economic structure that you grew up in. So that's what I was just trying to create an image of that. So
yeah, I just as I look back at it, yes, it was tough. We didn't have all of the things that my well-off counterparts had. Some of my best friends they had both parents, so they had two incomes. They had a home, they had vehicles, they had electricity. They've never known not to have their electricity off. So a lot of these things that I had to experience, they had no clue. But I was just grateful and blessed that I was still living, having experienced some of the people close to me lose their lives early, or get arrested and be incarcerated. Every day was a journey and a challenge to focus on not being another statistic. And the way I did that was remain active at the library, or join after school activities. I worked in the casino from 5 to 1, and I still managed to do after school activities before I had to catch my 3:45 bus to the Las Vegas Strip.
But what were the activities? Something about what
so I was in the law club. I participated in FBLA, Future Business Leaders of America. I was involved with the Trial by Peers program, because I was accepted into the law program at my high school. So I involved myself in that work, being an advocate for youth just like us. And we were either defense, or we would prosecute youth in the juvenile justice system. And the program's called Trial by Peers. So that was a big part of my life. But I also enjoyed myself, and some of my most vivid memories of having fun with my best friends, Eric and Andrew, and we would go out and go buy pizza, and take it back to Andrew's house and watch Dumb and Dumber over and over again. I mean, we were just silly that way. During Halloween, we would get in my van and we would go into the haunted car wash. So, a group of us would just pile into the van and do silly things like that. But for the most part, it was serious. I needed to get out of that environment, and I needed to get to university as soon as possible. So my goal was to graduate high school, attend university, and become a lawyer one day.
Target was really clear right from the beginning. We're really clear.
Yeah.
So, no, but tell me, in terms of, one is the social background and the economic background. So how did both of them work in your life? I mean, how much was it because of the economic part of it, and how much because of the social structure?
Well, I think it was the economical part of it was because I didn't have. It gave me the desire to want to achieve those things. Having not had the experience that most kids have, where you're given everything. You don't have to worry about paying a bill. You don't have to worry about trying to finance your own graduation or come up with scholarship money to pay for university. Those things are set forth by your parents. I didn't have that. So it gave me the desire to do it and gather it and work hard and save money and be able to afford those things for myself. It was tough, but I believe it's those tough times that we go through that shapes us later on in life. Without those tough times, that we may take something for granted. I didn't have the luxury of taking anything for granted. Every opportunity was an opportunity of a lifetime, and I embraced it. Some folks don't identify it; they can't see it. Sometimes they're too much in their own way in order to see what is before them. And for me, I just kept a broad view of the world and looked at it for what I could do and not what I could not do. In my mind, I can do all things, and I aim for that, and I continue to aim for that. I can do all things. I have one life like anyone else. Some lives are equipped with the tools that others aren't. But you can gather a tool one at a time and use it until you can't use it anymore. But you work that one tool, and you'll gather others along the way. And that's how I see life, really, Vikram. It's more so of it's not about the haves and have not. It's what you have in you, and your ability to want to gather it and achieve it. It's not what someone gives you or leaves you back. Because I know I have friends who have squandered everything that their parents have worked for because they didn't know the value of that hard work and that sacrifice that the parents had to make in order to achieve the things that they've achieved.
The important thing is that at least you appreciate all that, and at least you know that all that has affected you, changed you, and it's like an asset for you. So otherwise people have this, they look, maybe after, say, at the age 60, 70, they look back and then they look at all this. So at least you're reflecting on all that. I think that's the important part.
Yeah, I reflect every day. Every day is a reflection. If I sat down and started naming all the people that I wanted to thank for helping me along the way, I could write a book about it just with names.
But you must tell us, you have to tell us all about them, because let's put it out, let's send it out to them. But we'll start with Eric and Andrew. Where are they? Do you get to meet them?
Eric is in Vegas. He has a family of 4. They're doing really well. He's an police officer. Andrew, he's a banker. He lives in Atlanta with his family. He has 2 children, and he's doing really, really well. Neha, a good friend of mine, Neha Dagley. She's a lawyer in Miami. She's doing really well with a great firm. Carrie Shorty, she and her mother were a saving grace for me. I hung out with them more than I hung out with most people in my life, because we were always studying and working together and hanging out. And her mother would give us good advice, and her father would give us tools of to succeed and encourage us to succeed. So I had a village in every segment of society, and they're really, to be honest with you, just too many to name. Just really too many.
But we should have had some pictures. We should have put a face to those people. That is what we needed to do.
Well, it's probably going to take me a few days in order to get permissions. They're like, no, Donald, don't put my face on nothing. I don't want my face on anything.
But because we have to send them the clip. We have to send them how Donald remembers them. But you people, you end up meeting them. You get a chance to meet them. You have
yeah, I keep in contact with as many people as I possibly can. Even my high school principal and the teachers at the high school, to this day, I keep in contact with them through various social media outlets, where I'll pick up the phone and give them a call. People from my community in Kansas, people back in Las Vegas, my neighbors, those that have not yet passed, because most of my good friends living in that in the projects, apartments, in the government housing where we lived, most of my friends were senior citizens. At that time, they were in their 70s and 80s, and I would hang out with them most of the time just to stay out of trouble. take out their trash, or if they need a foot massage or clip the nails or try to comb the hair or wash the dishes, I was there to do it. And I didn't expect anything from it. I enjoyed their company and their wisdom, and they enjoyed mine. And that was just a niche community. The elders village is what I like to call it. It's a group of, they imparted so much wisdom in me. You can't buy that, to talk about the old stories and the way things were then and the luxuries that we have now that weren't available then. The expensive things that we take for granted. So those seniors really imparted, and I think they knew what they were doing, but they wanted to pass on those stories, and they wanted to give light to the life that they lived, and hopefully through me, I could help carry that on, that humility and the respect and the deference shown. And I still open doors for elders and women and children. I'm very careful as to what I do and say when I'm with my elders, even to this day. And I get highly offended with the youth of today when they disrespect the senior citizens of our communities. It just really burns a hole in me to see that. It makes you it just breaks your heart most of the time to see that. So I still have those old school values that were imparted at me by many people who not only thought we should do it, but expected it. Like my grandparents, it was expected. There was nothing more. There was no questions about it. You respect your elders. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I mean, it was part of the way we were raised.
No, but I always keep saying, Donald, is that because of this aspect of losing trust, of losing that respect for elders, I think that is one reason why mediation took off, because you didn't have that whole set of people did not respect them, so you won't go to them for them to assist you. So that is why the whole concept of going out to find a professional, I think one of the reasons could be that.
Yeah, I think so, because you would normally go to the elders of the community, the grandparents.
Yep.
And they would impart wise advice, life advice. Yeah, a quick fix today is not going to fix tomorrow. So we need to do it this way. And a lot of that would be, first off, forgiveness. Let's walk in here with a heart of forgiveness so that we can move to the next level. But when your heart is closed off and full of anger, it's very difficult to reach a decision.
Absolutely. I think that's why I think maybe that social structure has to change for people to actually you have to appreciate people. And I think the whole concept of gauging people and what you are looking at in people, it's not age. A lot of other factors have come in, could be the financial status, all those things. So that change in the society structure, I think that has changed things. But tell me something, in all this, why are you not taking solely to mediation? You have the mediator mindset, you have everything. Why are you not doing that?
Well, I'm still because I'm although I have all of this life and business background and politics, I'm a new Australian lawyer. So in Australia, you have to be supervised for 18 months to 24 months, and I have another maybe 12 months to go. I have about another year to go before I'm free to kind of decide and go off on my own, if that's what I choose to do. I love mediation. When
Exactly.
studying in law school and arbitration and all of those.
Don't go in the arbitration direction, please, Donald. Stick in mediation. That's what you're meant for. You're not meant for all that.
Dispute resolution and litigation, those things. That's where I lean. Those are the fields of
I'm
endeavor.
going to make sure I'm going to make you lean towards mediation totally. That's what you're made for, Donald. If you people like you get into arbitration and litigation, what about all those people who are going to miss out on a good opportunity to have a mediator like you?
Well, maybe we can arrange something. Who knows?
You should look at them.
We make some arrangements.
No, seriously, I'm saying this is really because I'm telling you, I read your story and I said, well, I mean, this person has a mediator mindset. That's what I said. For me, the aspect is not about whether you are a mediator, as you call yourself a mediator. It's just the mindset, which is something that you use around you. It's not something that you have to practice professionally only. Just the fact that you can do it around it. That's what you, like I said, if you have that whole lot of these elders not being around, then someone has to take that place. And with your experience and with you having spent time with so many people with so much wisdom and all that, I think all that is required in the world. People should benefit from it.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree.
So we will have, but how I mean, to become a mediator, I mean, to actually practice as a mediator in Australia, is it a whole process?
There is a process, and I haven't dug too deep in it, but you do have to get certifications and those things. I get a lot of practice with my two kids. I mean, I think they've trained me how to mediate situations multiple times. So if that's any indication of my skill set, I'm definitely up for the job.
That we'll have to ask them whether you're good at that or not. But how old are they?
7 and 11.
Okay, but in terms of their growing up, when did you move to Australia?
I moved to Australia permanently at the end of 2008 after my congressional race, my failed bid for U.S. Congress, and that was the decider whether I would stay in the United States or try my hand in Australia. It was a promise I made to my wife that if I won the election, she would move, and if I lost the election, that I would pack up and give up my political aspirations and move to Australia.
But no second chance?
Who knows? You know, life has a way of making things, you know, twist up and change and switch around. So who knows when they happen?
Okay, you balance it out. You'll do it in Australia then. The politics in Australia, why not?
Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Like I said, we need people like you out there to be doing all the good things that are required, not just for Australia, but for the world. So there's so much that you need to do. But we'll have to go back now. We're going back to now. High school is over. But what about sports and music and all that? I mean, is there something happening there?
Yeah. So back here, you'll see a bass.
Which we're going to hear after some time. You're going to be playing it. Yes, you will. Yes, you will. Yes, you will.
I was able to get a scholarship. I played the bass since the 6th grade, and I played in high school in the symphony orchestra and the chamber orchestras. And then I was able to get a small scholarship to the university playing the instrument in both the symphony orchestra, jazz band, and the chamber orchestra. And that helped to pay the bills. So when I moved to Australia, the first thing I wanted to purchase was a bass because I knew I needed to keep myself busy. It has since collected a lot of dust because I've been very busy. The kids soon came, and the house, and the process of making a home. All of those things were put forth before my music. So I don't play as often as I would like to.
But are the kids picking it up?
The kids are playing. My son, he'll pull the bass or the piano. They play. He plays the piano, but he also thumbs through the bass. It's not a very easy instrument to play, but once you get the hang of it, you can make it sing a little bit.
No, well, I think we need to hear it also. These words are not going to do anything for us. We don't know what it's all about. We don't know what it sounds like. You have to take us through that.
I can do that. You just have to give me a second to.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
And up to then, let me find those pictures that you sent me. You had sent me some pictures earlier. Let me find those.
Okay, I'll stop this real quick. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah. So, Abe, shouldn't Donald be a mediator?
I believe so. He has all what it takes.
Exactly.
And if he wins his argument with his kids, I tell you what, he's the right person.
Yeah, absolutely. No, just the fact that I think his experience, first of all, and
Yeah.
the fact, the kind of person he is.
Yep.
I think we
You will
need.
find most lawyers in Australia, they do have some mediation training or experience. Yes, what he said is true. There are certain procedures and processes before he can become a mediator, but he still can do some mediation and training and all of that. And it's not very hard to get to be a mediator as long as you do the right training and the right assessment.
That's one thing. That's the one thing that I really did. I mean, that way I think India is much better off, because it's, what are you doing? Are you just basically assisting parties to resolve the dispute? Now, to
Mhm.
be able to control it in this manner, to regulate it in this manner, I mean, it's very surprising that, I mean, people have to do that. I don't know. I really feel that there's so many more mediators that we need in this world. That,
There is a very good reason for it, and I have lived the whole experience before and after. And for this reason, I support it 100%. And I think
then
every country.
then I'll have to mute you. Then I'll have to
Yep.
mute you. I don't want to hear all that. I
That's
want to say, I
okay.
want you to say, yes, there is no regulation required. Anyway, everyone should be a mediator. Okay, now we have Donald coming in. On his,
I'll just play. I'll just pluck it a little bit. Is that okay?
yeah, please. That's one hell of an instrument. Yes,
Is that okay?
that's just the beginning. No, you can't do this. You have to, but that's one instrument I've never heard it. I mean, haven't heard it play like this.
That's it.
That's one. What a size. I mean, that's. But how come, Donald? How come you took to this instrument?
It was the largest instrument, so I thought it was the largest instrument, and it just looked fun. So I chose that instrument, and I had to carry it, walk it up a couple of blocks.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, that's what I'm
every
thinking.
day, or
Carrying that.
or even load it on the school bus, and that was a challenge.
Major challenge. You're lucky you're not in India, that you have to travel by a local bus here.
Yeah, exactly.
No. Okay, so but this was like, I mean, this was serious stuff. So serious instrument playing there.
Yeah, serious instrument playing.
But then this continued as you went through college and all?
Yeah, so I played through university, and after that was it. I think my senior year I didn't play university. I became too busy with work and student body. I was a student body president, so I had so many responsibilities, and so I had to let music and sports go. I played football, American football, and I had to let that go my senior year as well, because you can't do everything. You know, you can only do what time allows. And I have my eyes set on law school.
But in terms of getting into, I mean, colleges and all, does this help? Playing an instrument or playing a sport, does it help?
Yes, because in America, there are scholarships for everything. So if you're a runner, you can join the cross country team and receive a scholarship. If you play sports, you get a scholarship in sports, or academic scholarships, you know, and of course loans. And I had to take many of those. I'm still paying them back, to be honest.
That you have to tell us about, because we hear that's a big burden. That's a big burden, and how many years does it take to clear that out?
It just depends on how fast or how fast you want to pay it. Australia, what I appreciate about Australia is that if you take out a loan, they call it a HEX loan. If you take that loan out, once you hit start making a certain amount of money, once you hit that threshold, it automatically those repayments automatically start coming out of your salary.
Okay.
So I think that's a better way to manage it. Whereas in America, it's so expensive. A lot of the universities are so expensive, and you can accumulate $100,000 in no time.
Wow.
And if you're not working right out of university, that interest just compiles, and you're stuck in a rabbit hole, and there's no way to climb out. So you have a lot of educated folks in America with these high-priced degrees, but they don't have a job in the field that they've studied in, and that's a real problem.
That's a serious issue.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, but tell me, now, of course, people are investing in education in that sense. But if it is not paying returns at the end of the day, then why do people still stick in that cycle?
Because there's nothing like an education. One thing that, that's one thing that you can have that no one can ever take away. It's in you. It's innate. You use those skills in other ways. One thing about my law degree, no one can come and take it away. It's mine. I've earned it. So when you have something that precious, you hold on to it, and you can utilize what you've learned along the way and apply those new tools to that, and you just grow in knowledge. Knowledge is power.
The only thing is that it comes at quite a price, as I hear in the US. It comes at quite a price.
Oh yes, it's very expensive. It comes at quite a price. Families remortgage their homes to pay for their children's university fees. It's a huge burden, but it's a part of our process, and we as Americans have accepted it by default, really, but we've accepted it, and it's getting a lot better. There in some states, community college is free now. You get better incentives or more incentives to study, because you find so many students realizing that I can start a business without an education. I can make money without an education. But what we don't realize is that education is going to sustain us in our later years. Things will change, business habits will change. Like now, we're under lockdown. Everything's under happening through technology. If you don't have that knowledge to readjust the way you do business, or understanding the new ways of the new world, you'll be lost. So it's important to continue that knowledge building, regardless of the cost.
But then everyone you grew up with went to university.
Not everyone, and from my neighborhood where I grew up in the government housing, from what I understand, I'm one of maybe 3 that have graduated from high school, and probably the only that went off to college. So it was really, I'm very rare in that circumstance. It's sad. There were more African Americans and people of color and low socioeconomic status in prison than there were in university. And that's certainly something we have to change in a lot of our hoods and our ghettos and our impoverished areas in the world. It should not be that way, because you'll never climb out. Your generation's always cursed if you don't find one maverick to crawl out of that pit.
I think that disparity of income definitely has to be bridged, and I don't know how and when it's going to happen, but it has to happen. No, but tell me something which I've always been asking people and saying, you people use the word African Americans, but should that be used? Shouldn't just everyone be Americans?
Yeah, I mean, well, for some folks say, why do we hyphenate it?
Hmm.
Well, it was hyphenated on us many years before we started using African American. We were called other things like Negro and Black and this and that. So as an African American man, what I choose to call myself, that's what I choose to call myself. My roots, my ancestors were African, and made it to America by no choice of their own. So for me, I need to, and I'm always complimentary of those that have come before me, and I want to recognize that my ancestors were African. I'm African American, and I can't allow anyone to take that part of away from me because it was already stripped away when the slaves arrived in North America. So if I don't hold on to that, then I'm in essence um, letting a part of me just be forgotten about, and I refuse to do that.
But in terms of the society as such, with everyone, like, I don't know what, do the Indians also do that? Do they also call themselves Indian Americans? I mean,
Yeah,
Indians in the sense from India, not the Indians otherwise.
yeah, yeah,
They also do that?
yeah,
That's a sad thing. So everyone kind of forms their own little community in that sense. So
Well, I mean, if you don't define yourself, the majority will define it for you, and they may give you a name you may not like. On the national level, from the outside looking in, yes, we are Americans. But just like in every society, there's a name for every type of culture. There's the low caste and the high caste in India. Why can't we just all be one India? Why do we have to be separated between the low caste and the high caste and this and that? You know, same thing with religion. But from on a more nationalistic, everyone wants their own individuality in some way, and they identify with their culture, the food that they like to eat, the clothes they like to wear, the music they like to sing. Everyone has, and that's what makes America America, because it's from, there are Italians and Jewish and Indian, both Indian from India and Native American Indian. You have Asians from all over Asia, Australia. Maybe they don't, the Australians don't call themselves Australian American, but maybe they do because they don't want to let go of their Australianism. You know, it's important to have that identity wherever you are. In Australia, you're just Australian, but you know, uh, covertly, oh, but they're from Sudan or they're from Greece. It's always that, or they're from Sri Lanka, or no, that's not an Indian, that's a Sri Lankan Australian. I mean, it may not be defined, but even within our own cultures, we're guilty of that. You know, we're guilty of pointing out who someone else is. I mean, so let's just call it how we see it. You know, I'm either Black American or African American, although I am American. Yes, I am an American, but if you really want to get deeper and to define uh, what I look like and where I'm from, I'm comfortable with African American. Just don't
okay,
call me.
yeah.
Just don't call me anything else.
No, I'm telling you, the thing is, with me, that aspect is not there. So for me to relate to it is a little difficult, because for me, everyone is, I mean, there's no concept of dividing them into anything. Like you even said, you have the concept of caste and everything that you hear about. I mean, at least the way I've grown up, the places that I've lived, well, my daughter even doesn't even know about these things. So I think it's just, I thought that change would happen as you go along, as society
Well,
develops.
no, it won't happen because we won't let it happen. Even within the African American or Black American communities, we we debate as to what we call ourselves. You know we have one common thing about us: we're Black, and for America, Black American, it's an honor to be Black. We're proud to be Black people. We wouldn't be anything else. You know, that's who we are. So you could call us Black Americans,
But
or
Donald, that's not permanent. That's not permanent. There is going to, the next generation will have some mixed aspect to it, and the change, the color will
well, I
get
mean,
diluted.
Well, Vikram, it's not the color of the skin, it's how you identify. Because I know I have very close friends that are as fair as A, and they are blacker than black. They are black. They call themselves black, and don't confuse it with anything else. Otherwise, you'll hear something from them. But it's more of a, I guess, more of a cultural thing. Some folks identify in Australia as indigenous or Aboriginal, and they don't look Aboriginal. They, an outsider may look at them and see, an Anglo person. But if you tell them they're Anglo and you don't recognize their Aboriginality, then you'll hear from them. They'll correct you really quick, and they will tell you, I'm Aboriginal Australian.
So that means I have to use the word. I have to use African American. That's what it is.
No, I'm an American. From your view, I am an American.
No, but one interesting thing that I heard was there's actually an African American lingo. There's a term for it. I don't remember that now.
Well, they call it Ebonics. Well, that's a term that, again, a group, a subset within our community identified the way we speak to each other, and we do have a different language, and our language is more a soulful. It's more from it's a communication that if you try to say it, you sound awkward if you're not a black person. Everyone will look at you like, it's like I'm trying to talk Tamil to my wife's family members. They're like, oh, they laugh because it certainly sounds funny. It's just not, it just doesn't sound right saying it, but we appreciate him trying, it's that type of situation.
No, but I was just thinking, because someone was giving an example about in a mediation, this person had an African American had a lawyer who was not African American. So the person was talking in that lingo. There's something called the double negatives, the way they speak. And the lawyer himself could not understand what his client was saying because he didn't understand that lingo. So I found that very interesting. There's a whole set of the way that people talk, and which in such a situation, if you don't understand, it's a very difficult situation.
Yeah, it's almost like my brother and I, we grew up, and I don't remember it anymore, but we created our own language. And we made sounds identify things that we could only talk about. And people would look at us like, what are they saying? But it was something that we created for us. It's something that we could understand. And you find that in every culture on earth. We all have those little sayings that someone would look at you like, what? And you understood that? What did he say? What did she say? It's just part of who we are as humans. We adapt to our surroundings.
So basically, everyone wants that little identity of their own, and they create those things. So that way, but what you were saying about the fact that, of course, different cultures together, but the term that we use here is unity in diversity. So so you're saying in American society also the same kind of situation. There's so many kinds of people, so they should have that. I mean, you should have that diverse aspect, but then get together, that part of it. But otherwise, now you've gone into university. But in terms of discrimination, is there racism as such that you feel in university, or is it just something which happens outside?
Well, and then that's why Vegas prepared me to look past those things. In the scheme of things, any racial look, I learned early on to kill people with kindness. If I felt like they were being racist to me, then I would make them even more uncomfortable. If there was a professor that was, I felt that was being a little prejudiced, I would wait, let everyone leave the class, and I would talk one-on-one. Because maybe they need to know who I am and the way I'm thinking, to understand where I'm coming from. Maybe we're reading the same book but on different pages, and I just need to understand that from a mature perspective. You're going to get people that are prejudiced, not only white against black, but there are black against white and Indian against black. I mean, it's rampant. It's everywhere. But we adapt, and I didn't experience that. And in my university's 100-year history, I became the first Black American to serve as student body president. So I wouldn't say that I wouldn't say that I didn't experience any racism, but I didn't allow those people, those ignorant people, to get in the way of my progress. It's a reflection on who I am if I allow that to happen to me. So I have to protect. I'm the master of my fate. I'm the captain of my soul. That was an Invictus, part of the Invictus poem. But at the end, the last phrase is, I'm the master of my fate. I'm the captain of my soul. So yeah, I ran into some folks that I wouldn't like to run into again, because I know they treated me the way they treated me because of the color of my skin. But had I allowed that to affect me mentally, I wouldn't be here today.
But what about your friends that you grew up with? Did they have the same kind of attitude, or?
Well, some of my friends reacted in violence and would really knock the daylights out of you, and you probably will wake up, 3-4 hours later when they're finished with you. And there were some that just could not take it, that mentally it consumed them, and they contemplated harming themselves, or when they were faced with having to report it, they didn't get the result that they thought they would have received. But some things I just bless them and keep it going. Bless you.
But this is one thing that I can't relate to at all, because that's never experienced it anywhere in the world. For me, it hasn't happened, so I can't really relate to what kind of feeling that a person gets. I mean, this must be serious, and a human being doing that to a human being. I mean, it's something that how do you even accept it? I don't know. I really don't know, because that's part of it.
You never accept it. You just in America, you learn how to deal. You learn how to live with it, because it's there. It's there, and you know it, and you feel it, but it makes you, for us, for a lot of us Black Americans who have obtained some sense of success in life, it's the wind in our backs that pushes us to achieve. It's the ability to show what I can do. And one thing my grandmother said to me that lives with me every day, she said, I don't consider myself better than nobody, but I know for damn sure ain't nobody better than me. And that lives with me. I don't care if you're a billionaire. I don't consider you better than me. I don't consider myself better than you, but I know you're not better than me.
Exactly, but I'm sure it's changing. I mean, American society must be changing in this.
Well,
the younger lot has changed.
The change is coming from the side of the racists. They're going to have to change. You see, society, it's changing, as you mentioned before. It's becoming browner and browner every day, with interracial marriages and and all that's what's happening all over the world. I mean, if the Kardashians can do it, then so can I, type of mentality. But my children are mixed race, and most of my friends' children are mixed race, and it's just it's the way of the world. You fall in love with someone, you can't help it. You can't, choose who you fall in love with.
But where is your wife? Where's your wife from?
My wife is from Sri Lanka.
Okay, but she grew up in the US, or she?
No, I met her here.
Okay. Okay.
On a political exchange trip.
So
I met her here.
Okay. So Australia's been good for you.
Australia's been good for me. I cannot complain. This country is like the land of milk and honey. I'll tell you, there's anyone complaining. They're born and raised here. If they're complaining, they were born and raised here. I'll tell you that. They don't
Well,
know. They don't know they don't know what. They don't know what. um, a lot of them don't know what real hardship is. They're oblivious to the fact that people are really doing it in. Their stomachs are touching their backs. There's no concept of that here. It's clean. It's beautiful. The government has stepped up, even though they make mistakes. They've stepped up in every way to make life better. And not to say Australia doesn't have a long way to go in regard to reconciliation of its indigenous people, but we've come a long way as a nation. And I think we're going to be the example for many nations around the world.
But full disclosure, Donald, you are not being paid by the Australian government to say that.
You know what? And if I were being paid, I would say a whole lot more about Australia. There's not much more I could say about Australia. It's just been a blessing for both me and my family. I mean, I couldn't imagine raising my children in any other place in the world.
But in terms of the indigenous people, I mean, are you in touch with some people? Because there's a symposium that I'm organizing. I don't know whether you heard about that. There's a symposium on mediation in our culture and traditions, which is through August and September. So I need someone from the indigenous community in Australia to at least take us through the practice of mediation in their communities. Is someone you think you can do that?
Yeah, I can make you some introductions on
can?
LinkedIn. I'll link you in and introduce you to some folks on LinkedIn.
What if you do it, Donald?
Hmm?
What if you do a session on that?
Yeah, I can help with that.
Yeah, you can get someone involved. I mean, you can get someone from the indigenous communities to be part of it if you want.
I can help with some parts of that, I'm sure, but if I can find a First Nations Australian to speak to that, I think it's more respectful. I don't want to come off as knowing all about the culture, even though I studied a bit about indigenous peoples and the law. But there are some very sharp and qualified, brilliant indigenous minds, lawyers, mediators, arbitrators, everyone in the legal profession who can speak very vividly and clear to the indigenous Australian plight here in this nation, and how they deal with disputes within their own community.
Exactly. Yeah.
A part of that is the Koori Court. It's a court specifically set up to deal with issues involving indigenous people within their own communities in a way that respects their values and their way of life.
But we need specific examples of mediation in that culture. And actually to distinguish also that this is actually mediation and this is not mediation, this is arbitration. So someone who can do that. But let's do a joint session. You can have someone part of that. So we'll schedule it. Maybe after we finish this, after that we'll do it. But because I just felt what the idea behind the symposium is that all over the world, mediation has been part of the culture, which people might have moved away from for whatever reason. Some people say like in India, the British got the court system into India, so we moved away from it. So the colonization of the world, maybe some things changed, but at least it's there. So why not highlight that? And we want to take people back to their roots in a way. So I felt that was one way of doing it, rather than people thinking that some mediation is some rocket science which has been developed in some part of the world and has now being thrown everywhere. It's not that. It's just that the word people might not be familiar with, but at least they know the process. Like you said, you're doing it with your kids. You're doing it all the time, everywhere you go. So you are going to be part of this, Donald. So I'll fix a time with you.
Oh, so I see big money in the future.
Yes.
Working with Vikram.
Money. You would just have to spend time like me. Money, please don't even think about it. I have to put out an appeal on my posts at the end. Please support me, because the amount of time it takes. I mean, you can't understand the firing that I get from my wife and daughter. I mean, the hours that this takes. I mean, imagine now we've got 70+ speakers from 35+ countries.
Well, you've done well.
So I mean, imagine putting it that all together, and they're very nice people. I mean, the main thing is that the people who are mediators are nice people. So it's just nice interacting with them and whatever. So I'm happy doing that. So but it's I mean, I'm actually connecting with people all over the world. It just feels good that you have these nice people out there who want to do good things. The only thing is that I want them to be only mediators, but most of them have to be arbitrators, mediators, litigating lawyers, and everything else.
Yeah, you have to pay the bills and the school fees and
I know.
everything else that comes with having a family and raising, raising children.
But why
You
can't they
know,
do that as being mediators? Why?
well, you can. I'm sure you can, and there are quite a few mediators here that earn a great living doing it. I have one of the professors that shaped my political career, my political science and history professor, is from India. Kerala, India. His name is Charlevu Givorgis. Wait, Charlevu
Verghese.
Givorgis Chaco.
Okay.
Charlevu Givorgis Chaco, CG Chaco.
Mhm.
And he took us to Harvard on debates, and we did some amazing things under his leadership. An amazing man, a great professor of political science.
Not bad. But what university is this now?
Friends, like best friends. It's a Quaker university.
Okay.
Friends.edu. It's a very old university, and it was started by the Quakers, and the Quakers were very significant in hiding slaves in the Underground Railroad. They would shelter slaves to passage to get them to the north and across the Missouri border, so that they would be free. So, in selecting that university, that history was part of the reason why I chose to attend that particular school, even though it was one of the most expensive in the state of Kansas. I needed to be there and pay tribute to that institution for what it did for many people, enslaved people.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that history by itself is, I mean, something. But you've read about the history and all that. What really happened? You've gone into all that. The history of slavery in India, in the US.
Yeah,
We've got on.
of course.
But because we had Ken Cloak, who was part of the civil rights movement, and his experiences in the southern part of the US. Serious stuff. I mean, some sheriff putting a gun on his head and wanting to shoot him because he was getting some, like, I don't like to say the word. I don't know. Okay, blacks is not the word I would like to use. Okay, so that's it's a little tough for me to even say that.
You say black people.
I don't know. It's just a little tough. It's a little tough.
Why is it tough to say black people?
I don't know. I mean, I actually can't categorize people. For me, it's a very difficult
I'm
thing
proud
to
to
do.
be black. When you say black people, it makes me smile. I'm fine with that.
I just can't do it. It just makes it really tough to even say anything about someone. I just okay, but whatever. I mean, so it was interesting, that experience of his, the kind of things that people go through. But I was asking him also. I mean, look, you were part of a society where this was happening, and you were on the other side. But what did you do? I mean, what about other people that you knew? That whole thing is happening. That in a bus, people are segregated and all. What were you doing? I mean, I actually asked him that question. How does a society actually just, how do they carry on like that? I mean, you have a conscience also. You have to have a conscience. That was a little tough. Not, I mean, I don't know.
Well, you survive. I mean, you survive for yourself. No longer are you tilling the fields of your slave master. You're tilling your own fields now. And a lot of freed slaves did very well after slavery. They accumulated land. In Tulsa, Oklahoma, there was a city called Black Wall Street, where we had a couple of airports and lawyers and doctors, black professionals, supermarkets, and a full city, thriving city of wealth. But it was burned down and bombed from airplanes dropping bombs in America on American citizens, on an American town. So it's just that you just have to rebuild, and you just have to keep going and keep fighting. And as a result, you have a lot of success as a result of that bloodshed and all of those struggles and trials to get Black people to where we are today. A lot of blood was spilled, a lot of deaths occurred, a lot of sacrifice happened, and we're starting to see and reap the rewards of that sacrifice and that struggle. African American women are the most educated subset in America. That says something. That's something in itself. You know, more master's degrees and doctorate degrees from African American women than anyone else in America. So things are happening, things are moving, and we'll get there. We'll all get there together. Hopefully, we can all work together. That's the aim, you know.
So now, but now you've in your university, I mean, you've got your whatever. Largely, you're focused obviously on your studies and everything. But what else is happening? Some interesting things, some nice things, some fun things. What about those?
Well, I joined a fraternity, the Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. It's a social fraternity. See, back in the early 1900s, when Black people would want to join social organizations on campus, and white fraternities and sororities, we could not. It was segregated. You could not join a white fraternity or sorority. So we created our own, and it's called the Divine Nine. Kamala Harris is a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha, a sorority, traditionally African-American sorority. And I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Psi. I'm one of her brothers within that whole Divine Nine concept. And we would throw parties, and we would put on scholarship programs and give scholarships to students. We would also do college tours as a fraternity, golf tournaments. We had a good time. We really enjoyed that fraternity life as an undergrad. And then once you graduate from university, you then join as an alumni member. And you start doing quite a bit around the community and supporting social endeavors and academics and community service. So I had a good time with my fraternity brothers. My fraternity brothers reminded me that I needed to live a little bit, and we did road trips, and we traveled, and we attended parties. We had a great time.
But Donald, you can't just say that and that's it. You have to tell us about those road trips. I mean, this is just two words cannot do it. What is it like traveling the US by road? I mean, tell us about that.
Amazing. Everything in America is big. The roads are huge. And the country is vast. But when we travel, for instance, my wife and I, when we got married, instead of taking a honeymoon right away, all of the guests that traveled in from all over the world, from Dubai and Sri Lanka and India and all over Australia, the Maldives, they came in, and after the wedding, we rented 3 vans, and we piled 21 people in those vans, and we traveled west and took them to Disneyland in California, went to the beach, and then we drove from California to Las Vegas, and we let the folks just go have a great time in Vegas, and then we spent the night along the way in Utah and in Texas and Colorado, and we really we showed them a good time, and we came back home and they flew out.
Wow, that must have been quite a trip. How long was it?
The trip was 1 week. It took a week.
That's short, Donald. What can you do in 1 week? This should have been at least a month.
Well, when my wife and I go, we take an extended time. But a lot of these folks that came to visit us for our wedding and be there had already taken so much time off from work. So we needed to compact a nice holiday for them to remember, because this will probably be the first and last time that some of them would visit the United States. And they're, all of them are world travelers, but many of them just did not have interest in the States. They prefer to travel to Europe or Africa or Asia somewhere.
Yeah. But what are the nice places to go to on a road trip? Something.
Um, I like the Panhandle. I like to travel the southern route when I go to Vegas, when I drive to Vegas, because you can see the Grand Canyon, the Hoover Dam. There's some nice attractions along the way. Indian reservations, Native American reservations, and every city has its own quirk. Every city has something that it's known for. Um, and you stop in those cities and to those markets, and you see, you almost forget you're in America in some places. You know, if you want some good Mexican food, you find the Mexican community, the Hispanic community, and you have the best Mexican music and food in New Mexico. It's just awesome. It's just so much to see, so much to do in the United States. I do miss it. I miss home because it has that flavor. There's a flavor about America that just gets you excited to even drive one of the muscle cars, because you can put your whole foot in the gas tank and fly without, the cameras catching you. Like in Australia, there's a camera at every corner. You get your tickets in the mail in Australia. You don't get pulled over. You get a nice fine in the mail. Whereas in America, when you're headed from Vegas to California, you can rent you a muscle car, a Charger, or some heavy muscle 8-cylinder and just fly.
Okay, that's the time you can actually use it. Otherwise, it's just another car. It's like,
That's right. That's right.
oh, okay, so that must be good fun. But what about Australia? I mean, you've done your road trips there also. I'm sure you do that.
Yeah, Tasmania, Sydney, multiple times. We've driven to Sydney, and we normally in Victoria we just travel wherever. There's Wilson's Prom. There's the Great Ocean Road. Great Ocean Road is
That must be nice.
And just get out. You see something different every time, and I think just getting on the road and having conversations with your family that you wouldn't normally have, I think that's the most precious. Those are some of the most precious moments. The hotels and the sites are great, but it's just spending those hours in a car with your family and enjoying them and getting to know them more intimately.
But the only thing, are your kids a little too young to appreciate it, or are they enjoy themselves?
Oh yeah, they enjoy themselves, and of course technology helps us along the way when we say, okay, you can pull out your iPads for 20 minutes, then they pull them out without hesitation. But other than that, they normally they love to read. And I love to listen to them read. So I'll have them read a book, or we'll listen to audiobooks, or we'll turn on some music and we'll all sing, or we'll play games, I Spy.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to ask you about that. Yeah. So that's the tradition that carries on. The games in the car definitely carries on. That's the way they go. But otherwise, I mean, you think that in terms of, living in the US while doing your college and university, so all that, I mean, what is it that you would really look back and say, okay, this is what I really learned from there. This is what it really, made me as like living in Vegas did certain things for you. What would you say university did for you?
Well, my grandfather said he would have a saying, and he would say, "Get all you can and can all you get." And I didn't understand that at first, but when you put it in terms of life, you get all you can: your education, your knowledge, your resources, your network, and you just compile them into this can. And in my young childhood years, I piled some knowledge and some understanding and wisdom in that can. University and education, a few networks, ways of life, and I put them in that can. And even in politics and even in the law today, you put them in the can so that when you get in a position where you need to reach back into that can, you can reach in and pull out. Oh yes, I know someone from DC. We campaigned together on the Obama ticket. Okay, I'll call this guy. or I can call someone from Vegas, or I can call someone from New Zealand, or Singapore, or India, or wherever, you know, I have friends and networks and connections that I'm able to gather in my can all of these years. I have a support base. I have a network that I can reach into. So my university years just allowed me to build a network that I could put in that can, so that one day when they're growing in their endeavor, when they're growing in their profession, they may want to do business with me. I do business with them. We know each other. We studied together. We went on this trip together at Harvard. Or we did this in Orlando. We've cemented those connections so we can do business.
Yeah.
They know me, I know them, and we've grown professionally through the years at a consistent level. It's not like I'm reaching into my can and I'm way down here and trying to reach to the president. No, we are at an equal level, so that we can pick up the phone and reach out and say, hey, yeah, I know Don Betts. Yeah, I know such and such. Let's do business, or let me introduce you to this person in that field. So it all works out. So throughout my life, I haven't forgotten about those that I've connected with and that have helped me along the way, and that I've helped along the way. I just build up my can, and I reach into it when I need to.
Yeah. Okay, so now, I mean, university is over now, and now you move into, I mean, then where do you start from there?
So after I graduated from Friends University, I applied to law school, and I wasn't accepted. So then I walked into the Democratic headquarters one day. Being a political science history major, I figured I'm going to make this degree work for me. So I walked into the Democratic political headquarters, and the executive director was there to greet me, and I told him that I wanted to run for office. He asked me what office I wanted to run for. I said, whatever office is open.
But one thing, Donald, why not the Republican and why the Democratic?
Because I attended a Republican university, but none of the Republicans came out to recruit us. I hadn't heard anything from Republicans wanting me to come to their party or listen to their candidate or volunteer for their candidate. They just assumed because I was African American that I was a Democrat. So I embraced the party that embraced me at those young years. And of course, my grandparents and even my mother was a Republican for some time, but my grandparents were Democrats. My aunts and uncles, everyone that I knew were Democrats. But for me, it wasn't about the party. It was about the service. It was about getting involved. I just wanted to learn. I'm studying this stuff. So you have someone that is green. I was up for the taking. Had the Republicans recruited me, then maybe I would have served on the Republican ticket. But it just so happened to be the Democrats that gave me an opportunity.
But this feedback, you should give this feedback. But the Republicans lost on someone like you. So
Well,
that feedback should go. That they're not doing the right job in recruiting people.
You're right. You're right. I think they're doing a lot more now.
Okay.
They're trying to repair a lot of damage as of recent. So they're really trying to recruit as many people as they possibly can. And then you have the black Republicans, and they do some recruiting within the Black community and African American communities. But for me, it was the Democratic Party, and I hit the ground running. There was a representative by the name of Jonathan Wells who decided to retire. He's retired by fax, which left an open seat. I just so happened to be living in Jonathan Wells' district at the time. In America, you have to run and serve in the district that you live in. Unlike Australia, you can live across the other side of the state and run for a seat that you probably never even visited. It's just the seat. Whereas in the US, you have to run in the community that you're from. And that's how you get, that's how you tick off if you qualify to run in that district. So I did.
But you have to have a certain number of years that you've lived there, or you just have to show a residence there?
You have to show residence.
Okay.
And then my family, my father's side, the Betts side of the family, was very well known and respected on that level. So when I moved My grandmother was very well respected, my aunts and my uncles as well. So when they heard of a young Betts running, a lot of people jumped on the campaign. And my grandmother and I, we started off in her living room, and we stuffed envelopes, and she put the stamps on, and we just really started a grassroots campaign after I was able to get signatures for a petition, because I didn't want to pay for the filing fee. And as a recent graduate from university, I just didn't have the money to pay for a filing fee, to be frank. And I got the petitions, the signatures by petition, and that put me on the ballot. And then I just hit the ground running. My first contribution to my campaign was from a lady named Teresa, and she gave me $20 cash. I still have it in my ledgers, because you have to report everything to the Governmental Ethics Commission. So you remember your first contribution, which was $20.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyone that supports you, it's a good thing. That just the fact that someone appreciates you that much to get that money out of their pocket and give it to you.
Yeah.
I think that's a big. Okay, so then, so you stood for office then, and
Still for office. I captured 47% of the vote in a three-way primary in that first bid. I served 1 year in the House of Representatives, and then I came to visit Australia during that time, and that's when I met my wife. And then I moved back, or I went back after that trip. And then the oldest senator decided to resign, and the predecessor that I replaced in the House urged me to run for the Senate seat against the nominee that the serving senator selected to replace him. And I captured that seat in a special election by 1 vote to become the youngest senator in the history of Kansas.
How many votes are there?
There at that election, there were 38 precinct committee members. Mm-hmm. And 3 were running, 1 dropped out. It just left me and a very popular city council member. And I believe I had 17, or I had 19 and his 17, something like that. But it was that close. It was a deal breaker. So I beat him by 1 vote, and which was amazing. Yeah. And then I became the youngest senator in the U.S., but certainly the youngest senator in the state of Kansas when elected in the history of Kansas.
So that was an interesting period. That must have been a really interesting period.
Yeah.
What is it like? You have to tell a bit. I mean, what is it like being a senator?
The first year being a senator, well, the first year in the House, a legislator in general, whether you're a member of the House of Representatives or you're a senator, to be elected to serve in the state capitol is huge. I mean, it's a big deal. You run this campaign, you get these votes, you raise all of this money, and then you win. And then you're sworn in with all of your colleagues. And I can remember after we were sworn in and everything was done, the family members left, drove back to their respected homes. I went next door to another young state representative. At that year, he was the youngest elected, Joshua Swati. He's an awesome servant. And I sat at his desk, and I looked at Josh, he looked at me, and we were both puzzled. And I said, what do we do now? I mean, after running these campaigns and becoming elected leaders in our state legislature, we didn't know what to do next, because they don't write a manual for these things. And thank goodness we had our mentors and people that paired us up. So you have to hit the ground running and start thinking, what does my community need? And my first act of legislation was a rehabilitation instead of incarceration bill. It was Senate Bill 123, which would reduce, and the bill was a success because it provided rehabilitation for first-time drug offenders, second-time drug offenders, and third-time drug offenders, gave them opportunity for rehabilitation rather than incarceration. It brought the prison population down, and the bill was a success after the Attorney General at the time arguing that this legislation is a soft on crime bill. I I combated his argument by saying this is not a soft on crime bill or a hard on crime bill. It's a smart on crime bill. And after 2 years of the legislation being in place, the recidivism rate dropped dramatically, and other states started adopting the legislation. So my first piece of legislation in the House was a huge success, and it's still being modeled to this day. The Senate, that first year in the Senate, because I was fulfilling a 1-year unexpired term, was probably one of the most difficult years of my life, because you're faced with these lions in the Senate. I mean, these guys have been in the political game for many years, and they're when you walk in the Senate chambers, you're walking in the lion's den, and you're treading on territory. So you need to quickly identify your allies, so that you have some type of support, because they'll eat you up and chew you out. A lot of them said that I wouldn't be able to raise enough money to run for re-election to get the 4-year term. There's no way that young senator is going to be able to raise $80,000 to $100,000 to retain that seat. And a lot of the members in the community were really upset with me because I didn't let a city council member who had community support take that seat. I beat their beloved son. And so I called my friend, I dug in my can, I called my friend from university, Patrick Woods. He was working for a congresswoman in California. And I said, hey, would you consider moving back to Kansas and running my Senate campaign? And he said, I'm on my way, Betts. And we ran a full campaign. We captured 71% of the vote in a general election. And I served another 4 years in the Senate.
Wow. That's, but I mean, all this while, I didn't ask you about your mother.
Oh, mom was always there when I came back home on the weekend. She had since moved back. I had moved my brother back, and then I went and moved my mother back to Kansas. Mm-hmm. And she was there. I would stop by her house every time I come back from the weekend, and there would be a nice meal waiting for me, and
but how did she react to all this?
She and my father both were afraid. They were really nervous that I had gotten involved in politics, because I would be alone on those roads at night, driving for 3 hours from Topeka to Wichita. And they were afraid that, and that's why I did not include them, bring them, my family members, so close into my political life, because I didn't want them attacked, even though that, I can remember my brother getting in trouble, and the front page of the paper says, Senator's brother in trouble again. So, they attack your family members to get to you, but I didn't allow that to get to me. I just focused on my work for the people, and I did my job. And after that 1 year in the House, it took some convincing from a lot of people to convince me to run for office again. I was finished with it then, because of the politics of it all. It's just so it's so harsh and brutal. There's no justice for politicians in politics. So I just did my best and built my relationships with my constituents, and that support alone was enough. So if I called and I needed help on a bill, the money that I would raise for my campaign, I would charter a couple buses, and I would fill them up, and I would buy everyone wanting to come to the state capitol lunch, and I want them to fill the halls on the day that my bill was going to be voted on. And it likely passed every time. So I included the community in my work. I was the only senator with a district office, because you're not provided a district office. You're not provided with a political headquarters. You have to do that on your own. So I raised money specifically to have an office so that my community members, my constituents had a place to come and voice their concerns. The only senator to do that. And when I had a town hall meeting, my town hall meeting was standing room only, whereas the South Central delegation with all legislators from that area would have a town hall meeting, and there would be chairs everywhere, empty chairs everywhere. Everyone's at my meeting. So I treated my constituents with respect, and I treated them with dignity, because it wasn't my seat. I was just the figurehead. I was just the appointed leader. It was their seat, and they knew that with me. They knew that I wasn't aiming to hold on to this power. In fact, many of them had to encourage me to stick with it because they knew that I was tired of it. So I think I did my due, my political due, because I gave my all. If you can't reach your senator, you can call Senator Betts, and I'll serve you. I don't care if you don't live in my district. How can I help you? So that was me.
Well, I'm just thinking that how did those people let you go? How did they let you leave from there?
Well, they didn't elect me as a congressman. And everyone said, well, you should wait. You should hold on. You should try again. Once I set my mind to something and I make a promise, I keep my promises. And so I wasn't elected, and it was time for me to venture on. You know, it's life. You can't stay stuck in the same place wishing for the same things and not willing to live a little. And I needed a change of environment, and I wanted to write a new chapter. And it's here. I've written a new chapter. Now I'm trying to figure out what the next chapter is going to look like. I just need to walk one step at a time. And
I know the title of that chapter. You know, I know the title of that chapter, so I don't even have to tell you that's the title of the chapter. I don't even have to say it now, right? Mediator bets. That's it. That's what it has to be. That next chapter. No, but what percentage of the votes did you get in Congress?
I think I received. It's on the internet. It's all over. I think maybe 35%. So I went after a 14-year incumbent. So I mean, he had about $1 million in the bank easily. I may have gotten lucky and raised 300,000, but he had $1 million before the campaign even started. So he had a slush fund, and he had 14 years of serving in that seat. So I knew it was an uphill battle.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to walk out and give up a seat. I wanted to lose in order to tell myself
that you gave it your best.
This is it. Yeah, this is it. And there were regrets initially, because when you start over again, and I moved to Australia, and I couldn't pick up the phone and make things happen. I couldn't make things move like I would in Kansas as a senator. There was no more power. I'd relinquished all of that. And I didn't know anyone other than my wife's people. And I met a few politicians on my visits back and forth that I kept in contact with. So I pulled their names out of my can, and we've connected for coffees and stuff just to keep the blood warm. And so I had to start all over again, completely from ground zero. And that's tough. That's very difficult to do.
Yeah. I mean, you've created an identity for yourself there, and now you have to start from scratch and do that. But maybe that's also satisfying, that at least now people know you as what you are, but not with the tag. No, but in politics, did you find a mentor there? Or was there someone who was with you?
Many mentors. Yeah, many mentors. In the House was Barbara Ballard and Judy Loganville and Tom Sawyer and Jim Ward. I mean, Geraldine Flaherty. And then in the Senate, and many others in the House. I mean, I just can't name them all my colleagues. Even some on the Republican side, Ed O'Malley and Stephanie Sharp. And in the Senate, both Republicans and Democrats, they would pull me in, and because I was young, you know, I was the youngest, so they had children my age, you know. So for me to walk in that chamber, they wanted the best for me. And I don't think anyone was there to see my demise, but they would often question, you're so younger, you need to get into business and earn you some money. But I was single, I wasn't married, I was just me. I was a single bachelor senator, you know,
But
like
how old were they? How old were you?
20, 23 when I
Oh,
started, and then 24 when I was sworn into the House, into the Senate. I was 24 when I was sworn into the Senate.
wow, that's like amazing.
Yeah.
At 24 senator, not bad at all. That's like,
Something.
I mean, amazing. Okay, so basically, then that means that those mentors could not convince you to stay back.
Well, they were telling me that you're making a big mistake. You're going to regret it. A lot of people who love me, you could tell though, you know, they just did not want to see me leave. You know, we had some good times and we did some good work together. But the sun goes down, and then there's the new rising, and I needed to rise up in my new life with my wife and our soon to be born child, you know, and I'm glad I did. To be honest with you, I'm grateful that I did that.
Sometime, Donald, at some stage, you have to explain to me the entire election system in the US, the presidential election, and all that. I've never been able to understand that. So one day you will do that.
Well, you know, Vikram, I have a podcast where we talk about that and we break all of that down. It's called Greenland, the podcast, greenlandthepodcast.com. If you pull that podcast, I go into deep detail about the political structure, and I bring guests in from the U.S. and even a Republican senator who served on the National Rifle Association board that I served with, who is now a judge, Judge Journey. He talks about the Republican side and some of the things we did together. So,
But
yeah,
what is your view on gun control?
Assault weapons, all of those military grade weapons, there really should be background checks. We really shouldn't be selling them in America, to be honest with you. But you can't take an American's gun away. You could try your very best. You will never be able to do that.
Yeah, but Kansas anyway must be tough, because being the Midwest, I'm sure that
Oh yeah, Kansans love their guns. My grandmother slept with hers under her pillow.
Seriously. Not bad at all. I have to imagine that. I mean, I'm imagining a grandmother there with that gun in her hand.
Well, imagine waking her up in the middle of the night and she grabbing your hand and pulling the gun, and you have to say, "Grandma, it's me."
Wow. But your grandmother, do they visit you, or is she around?
My grandparents they've since passed. My grandmother was 85. My grandfather was 91, and I still have a grandmother who's 99, but she can't travel right now.
But you'll go and meet her once in a while.
Yeah.
No.
When I can get back home, I do.
No, but what happens? I mean, now she lives on her own in one of those old age homes, or with
No,
family?
she lives in the family home.
That's very nice. Because otherwise, I think a lot of people go into those retirement homes, and I don't know whether it's good or bad. I don't know whether that's good or bad.
Well,
I can't say.
I know the South Asian culture doesn't believe in those things.
Yeah.
And we did with my wife and her parents, and we took care of my father-in-law here at home.
Okay. So, yeah. But that's normally what I hear. I mean, I don't know whether that's a general thing, but I do hear most of the people do end up in retirement homes.
Yeah.
But what I didn't ask you, Donald, was, are you a golfer? Are you a golfer? Do you play golf?
I am a golfer. Yeah, I get out there and play a little golf. I have my golf shirt on today.
Yes.
A little golf. Like when I can get the time to get out there, I get out there.
Yeah, there must be nice courses there in Australia.
Yeah, beautiful out here. Okay. Australia's beautiful. Australia's a beautiful country.
That's like you're a brand ambassador for Australia. and you have Abe there who's also the same. That's what I keep saying. That this is where to be. Everyone's so happy there.
Yeah,
Abe, do you want to tell us about something nice about Australia? Because he also likes to tell us how good it's been for him, because he obviously moved from Jordan. Yes,
Well,
Abe.
I can't agree more with Donald about Australia. I am one of those people who has never ever thought of visiting USA. It just, I think I love Australia so much. And you're quite right. It is heaven on earth. I came here with a suitcase, nothing in it except 2 or 3 changes. And Australia made me who I am today. The opportunities are vast, and you just take it.
Tell me,
And
Abe,
yeah.
Abe and Donald, can I get this sponsored by the Australian government, this show, this episode? Amazing. I mean, such nice things. And I mean, you would normally not hear so many nice things about a country. That's damn good.
I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
But in terms, I mean, what makes it what it is? I mean, is it the people? Is it what is it all about?
I think it's everything. I mean, it's all the above. Culturally, it's, you have probably every culture on earth represented in this nation. I mean, it's just that diverse. It's that beautiful. The food. I mean, the food alone. I mean, you there's so many different restaurants that you can taste. You can have a taste of Jordan, Ethiopia, of course, India, Sri Lanka, even America. I mean, we still pride ourselves on making some of the best hamburgers in the world, but you get a taste of the world here, and you don't have very far to go to enjoy the whole world. And it's, I think it's, even in the school system, the kids are so happy. Yeah, there's some work to do in some schools, I'm sure, but for the most part, you don't have an excuse not to succeed in this nation.
Yeah.
You don't succeed, you were in your own way, and look, we all go through problems. We all have issues, but when you have a nation like Australia that at least sets it up for you to be able to succeed, there's no excuse.
But we haven't discussed your Sri Lankan connection. I mean, you've been to Sri Lanka.
Yeah, I've been to Sri Lanka.
What is it like? Because I've never gone there, so I have no idea.
Sri Lanka's beautiful. It's like a paradise on earth. It's beautiful beaches, warm, beautiful beaches. The wildlife there is the elephants and the leopards, and it's just a beautiful island with full of culture. Since I've been, I know COVID has hit every nation really hard, but pre-COVID, it was just the place to be. When you're in Sri Lanka, you exude these happy hormones. Yeah. And the people are always smiling, and even in some of the most impoverished areas, people smile. And it's a nation where there are palm trees and fruit and fresh vegetation growing everywhere. So there's no reason for anyone to starve, even on that island. And the nightlife is spectacular. You don't realize how much wealth is in a developing country until you actually get out there and experience it yourself. There's so much wealth in business, and if you notice, Sri Lanka produces some of the most educated and bright people of the world. I mean, a lot of them are running most of the medical facilities, and I mean, alongside Indian, the Indian brothers and sisters, they're everywhere. Sri Lankans, to be from such a small country, are everywhere, and there are, I don't know Abe, I don't know what the Sri Lankan community is like in Sydney, but I know it's huge here in Melbourne. So it's yeah. I don't have anything against Sri Lanka. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, there's supposed to be some nice golf courses there.
Yeah, nice golf courses and beaches and you know, everything. If you have the resources to go and travel and enjoy, you can pretty much do anything in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, the good. Yeah, one day I'm going to get there because it's supposed to be quite reasonable also. I mean, it's not very expensive.
Yeah.
But what we haven't done is we haven't gone through your pictures that you sent. You sent so many pictures which we did not go through. I mean, this is Jerusalem.
Yeah, that was in Jerusalem. I was that was one of my last political missions. Well, that was my last political mission of my career, and I spent it in Jerusalem, a place I'd always wanted to visit. And I learned about government and Jesus, you know, being there where Jesus walked, and it was a real, for me, it was a real eye opener. But it started in Jordan, so I landed in Jordan, and I met two of the guys that drove me from Jordan to the border of Jerusalem. Both's name were Muhammad, and we get out the car on the way to Jordan, and I have some of those photos. I just have to pull those, and we were just taking photos and having a good time in Jordan. What little time I had, I really enjoyed that time with the two Muhammads. But we, I was grateful to also see and visit Jordan on that trip.
That's where Abe is from. That's where he grew up. But this is not in order. I don't think it's in order, these pictures.
Well, that was when I was a senator. I served as a senator, and that's one of the, remember I said to get legislation passed, I get people up. Well, these are a group of kids with developmental disabilities, special needs children. And we were trying to pass some legislation, or were able to pass legislation to help support their program, where they paired kids without disabilities with kids with disabilities for a more inclusionary environment and society within the school system. And it's still working today. That program there is called the Circle of Friends program.
But do you work with them on a remote basis or something?
Now, I work with there's a lady to the left. If you go to the left, other way.
Yeah, okay.
Right there, the one at the end. Her name is Val Wall. She has sunglasses on, red hair. On the first step.
Yep.
Her name is Val Wall, and I still communicate with Val, and she continues to do great work within that space, that disability space.
So that must be interesting to do as a senator. All these things that you were exposed to, I think that must be really nice. Good people that you must have met doing good things.
Yeah, I would visit the schools in my district, and that was one of the schools that I visited. I was a state representative at that time, and I was visiting with that young man, and he was showing me the parts of the human body and the hands, the feet, the head. He was just a little young man in a Head Start early learning program.
Okay, so you did get to learn something. Good.
I did, yeah.
No, but did you get funds you have access to funds that you can spend? Is there something that?
No, you have to, in that level, you have to raise money. Well, when you serve on the appropriations committee, what legislators do, we write the laws that the state and has to follow. So there are appropriations, and you can fight for additional money to go for different programs, and that's what I did. I would fight for additional dollars to go to early learning programs for the kids, in the public school system.
Bets 08 for Congress.
Yeah, that was when I decided to run for Congress. The gentleman there, that was the senator that I replaced, where I received the one vote against his selected nominee, held a fundraiser for me at his home. So we had a congressman come down. We raised some money at Senator Gooch's place and for my congressional race.
That's Senator Betts, is it?
That's Senator Betts. I was escorting the governor. I chartered a bus and escorted the governor throughout my district, and I was there speaking to a group of constituents with the governor on my left side, introducing her.
So that means basically your being a senator was up till 2008.
Yes.
And so basically 2004, that means 2003 was the first time you got elected.
Yeah, 2009, up to 2009. So my term finished in January 2009.
So when would this be? What year would this be, this photograph?
Must have been 2007, maybe. Okay. 2008, 2007, 2008.
So I'm just saying, what, 13, 14 years of life, how it changes you. You look you can look a lot different now.
Yeah, I grew a beard. I know that.
No, you don't call those beards. You call these beards. These are beards. Okay, so
those are my parents. That's my mom and dad. And every photo, my mother, even when she's taking a photo with my brother, she closes her eyes, and it's just by habit. It just automatically happens. She doesn't mean to close them, but the camera always with her eyes closed, and that's my dad.
But I'm just thinking from her. I mean, imagine there in Vegas, working there, to her son becoming a senator. I mean, for her, it must be like amazing that she's seen all that.
Yeah, and she's reaping the benefits being in Kansas now. I mean, everyone knows who she is because of me. So everyone kind of looks after her, and they know who she is. So when she attends some of the political functions with some of my colleagues, and people start to find out who she is, that she's Senator Betts' mother, there's never a dull moment. I mean, she's never left alone. Everyone wants to meet her and talk to her and all of that stuff. So.
But does she come down to visit you?
Yeah, she was here during the 18-month lockdown.
Wow. Okay.
And she ran the homeschooling for my kids and looked after them, and yeah, so she's been here several times. And
your father?
My dad has not been here. Well, he passed away in 2019. He's no longer with us.
Sorry.
Yeah, so that was a piece of legislation, a resolution that I saw passed, that would divest from doing business in Sudan until the war was over. So we divested our retirement, Kansas public employee retirement funds from any investments in the Sudan until the genocide stopped. And we were able to get that legislation through our legislature, and the governor signed it. That's Governor Kathleen Sebelius. She was the Health and Human Services Secretary under President Obama.
And Senator Betts is at the back.
And I'm way in the back, yeah. Okay. Looking on.
Yes, at the back.
Yeah, that's my mother and us when we were just, I think I was 10, maybe 11 there, maybe 12. 12. Yeah, I think I was about 12 years old there. Mm-hmm. And my brother was 10. Yeah. Okay. That's my wife and I. We went to a Circle of Friends event, to
building the circle. Building the circle is okay.
Yeah, so it's a Circle of Friends program, but it's the building the circle performance that they put on every year to raise money for their programming. And my wife was in town.
Well, what's her name?
Tanya.
We can't say your wife, my wife. It has to be Tanya.
Tanya.
Tanya. Okay.
Yeah.
So.
That's Senator Mosley Braun in the middle. She's one of the first Black female senators in the history of the U.S. Congress, U.S. Senate, and Senator David Haley. Senator David Haley was my seatmate. And view of Alex Haley, the author of Roots. I don't know if you've ever
not read it, but I've
Roots.
seen what there was a serial made on it, a TV series made on it. I
Yes.
saw a few episodes, and it was interesting. It was interesting, but didn't go through the whole thing. It was very long.
Yes. So he's the nephew of Alex Haley, and his father was an ambassador for a country in Africa many years ago.
But that's what height is it? What height do you have? How tall are you?
I'm 6'4".
That's the good thing about Zoom. Everyone is the same height. That's what I like about it. The leveling factor there. 6'4". Oh, that must be like you feel short in front of you. That's Senator Betts at his best.
Yeah, that's me. That's me arguing or doing something.
Okay, what I'm going to do, yeah, but only thing is, look, I'll have to I'm just rushing through it because there's a conference that I'm speaking in the next 7 minutes. Never ever cut my episode short. It's just that this has happened this way. So I'm just so that's not bad. Senator Betts, I like my style.
And that's Australia. This is in Australia. Those are some of my clients. Rupinder Brar right here. He's the second man he's the shortest of the group.
This one?
Yeah, he's a businessman and property developer here in Australia. Zoe Daniel is a foreign correspondent, ABC correspondent, the lady there. And then some of our friends. We did an inaugural watch party in real time. So we had a group of about 100 people come out to this event that I put on. And we celebrated the event between Biden and Kamala Harris.
Okay, this is the last of the photographs. So I'm going to shut this down. Yes, great. So now what's going to happen is now we're going to see you at the symposium for sure. I will fix the time. What I'll do is after we end this, I'll just take you through the schedule and I'll fix a time with you. But for the moment, we'll end this episode because of the fact that in the next 7 minutes, I have to get there. That's the only thing.
That's okay.
It never happens. I'm telling you, this never happens. This is one of those very rare times. You know, you can ask Abe. It can go on for 4 hours without a break. Not a problem.
You know, I was prepared for you. You said that last time, so I figured I'll cut out some time tonight and get it done.
Yeah, but we're gonna. I mean, this is enough. I mean, we're going to call you again. We're going to call you again. We'll have another conversation. There is so much more to talk about. That's why it's good to end at some time.